So today we're talking about hidden gems, underrated neighborhoods in the Philly suburbs that I believe are positioned really well for growth over the next few years, not because of hype, but because of fundamentals. Everyone knows the obvious places like King of Prussia, Westchester, parts of the main line. Those are great areas, but the market has already priced in the excitement. When everyone is talking about the same towns, that is usually when the easy upside is ultimately gone. I want to focus on today are the areas that still have great bones, solid schools, strong community, good commute access, improving amenities, and pricing that has not fully caught up yet. This matters whether you are a first-time buyer, a move-up buyer, or an investor thinking long-term. Quick market snapshot. So we are all grounded in reality, and as of early 2026, we are seeing much healthier market than the chaos of a few years ago. Inventory is up slightly across Montgomery, Chester, and Delaware counties. We are hovering around 1.5 to 2 months of supply depending on the micro market. Still, technically a seller's market, but nothing like the insanity of 2021 or 2022, and prices are still appreciating, but at a much more reasonable pace. Think low single digits instead of runaway growth that are double digits. Interest rates have also stabilized. Buyers have some breathing room and honestly some time to think and make some smart decisions. So here's a key point. In markets like this, the winners are people who buy well, location, timing, and ultimately fundamentals. This is why underrated neighborhoods matter so much right now. So today I'm going to break down 4 areas I believe that fit the profile perfectly for 2026. I'm going to walk you through why each of these areas are underrated, what is changing, and how I would think about them from a lifestyle and investment perspective. So we'll get right into it. Starting from Montgomery County, Conshohocken, Conchi as people call it. Now, if you've lived around here for a while, you've probably heard of Conshohocken, but I still think of it, a lot of people underestimate it, just how strong the area is becoming. Some people think that it's probably not even underrated, but I do still think that, in my opinion, it gets overshadowed by King of Prussia, Plymouth Meeting, and the Main Line. Those places get the headlines, but Conshohocken has quietly been building momentum for years. First, let's just talk about location. You are right along the Schuylkill River, immediate access to I-76, regional rail, straight into Center City, and you can be in Philadelphia in under 30 minutes without dealing with the city living full time. The other indication is areas that are around Conshohocken, even areas like Bridgeport, are starting to blow up as far as home development, and that alone already checks a massive box. What really makes Conshohocken special is the walkability and lifestyle. Fayette Street. It's turned into the downtown of Conshohocken. There's restaurants, breweries, coffee shops, fitness studios. You actually see people out there walking around, and that matters more than people realize. Walkability in downtowns consistently outperform over time because they create community and they also create demand. Then you add the riverfront trails. The Schuylkill River Trail is a huge quality of life factor, whether you are a runner, someone who's a dog owner, or just someone who likes being outside. That amenity is a big deal. Now, let's talk about development and jobs. Conshohocken has seen significant commercial and office development over the last several years. You have biotech, farm, tech adjacent companies. There are financial services companies. A lot of well-paying jobs are moving into that corridor. And when jobs move in and housing supply is limited, well, prices tend to follow. So from a number standpoint, Conshohocken is still relatively accessible compared to some nearby alternatives, depending on the property, of course. You're looking in the prices between the mid 4s to low 5s. And when you compare that to parts of Ardmore, Bryn Mawr, or Wayne, the value gap actually becomes pretty obvious. I actually had a client not too long ago who bought a townhome in the mid 4s, young professional couple. They wanted something walkable close to the city, but not priced like the Main Line. They absolutely love the place, and even in a calmer market, they've already seen appreciation simply because of demand remaining strong. So from an investment standpoint, Conshohocken checks a lot of boxes. There's a strong rental demand, good resale demand, limited land for new construction, proximity to even jobs and transit. So if you are thinking long-term, this is the kind of place that continues to mature and reward patience. Moving on to the next county, into Chester County, Phoenixville. So Phoenixville might be one of my favorite transformation stories in the entire region. I mean, if you go back, I mean, you're talking about way back, Phoenixville was known as an old steel town, industrial, quiet, not really on anyone's radar. This is one of the places that people have probably already noticed as a pretty more developed town now. And you fast forward today, it feels completely different. Bridge Street. So if you haven't noticed, every of these towns or boroughs that I'm talking about has some kind of street or downtown, and Bridge Street is the heartbeat of the town. There's restaurants, breweries, coffee shops, boutiques, events, festivals, the Colonial Theater. There is energy out there, and people come in. They come into Phoenixville on weekends now, and that was not always the case. So although people won't think it's underrated, why do I still consider it underrated? It's because when you compare to Phoenixville to places like Westchester or Malvern proper, pricing is relatively reasonable for the lifestyle you are getting. Phoenixville benefits heavily from spillover demand, buyers who want charm, walkability, and community, but hypothetically, they would be priced out of Chester County hotspots. So you have that proximity of the Great Valley Corporate Center. That is a major employment hub. A lot of people want to live near work, especially in a world where hybrid schedules are common, and schools are pretty solid in Phoenixville. Community involvement is strong. The town has done a good job balancing growth with character and the integrity of that character. So from a numbers perspective, Phoenixville prices have risen, so no doubt that is true. But relative to Chester County as a whole, there are still opportunities, especially if you're willing to look at different property types or cosmetic updates. So if you're a family, for example, moving from the city and you need, for example, a space for kids, a sense of community, walkability, you might want to consider looking at an older home that might need to be renovated. And within months, similar homes are now selling more. So not because of speculation, but because of demand continues to rise. And from an investor's angle, Phoenixville can work well for long-term holds, rentals, small multifamilies, even single-family homes with strong resale appeal. So this is not just like a flash in the pan type of town. This is a place that has rebuilt its identity in a very sustainable and cool way, which makes it, in my opinion, very unique. Staying in Chester County, let's talk about Malvern Borough, because I did talk about that briefly. Malvern is interesting because it gets lumped in with the main line, but the borough itself often flies under the radar. And when people think main line, they do think mostly of Wayne, Radnor, and Bryn Mawr. And the big price tags, Malvern, they do have big price tags, but Malvern offers a different entry point. The most noticeable, and I think most people would agree, is the direct SEPTA access into the city is huge. So especially for professionals who still commute part of the week. Second, we talked about this, the Great Valley Corporate Center. This is one of the largest employment hubs in the region for finance, farm, and tech, and corporate offices, and that creates consistent housing demand nearby. And third, the Great Valley School District is highly regarded. That alone supports the long-term values, especially in Malvern Borough. Malvern also has its charm on King Street, and there's local shops, parks, a small town feel with real infrastructure behind it. Why do I think it's underrated? It's probably because of pricing in a borough that you can get reasonable, still expensive in my opinion, but reasonable compared to the surrounding mainline towns. You are often getting similar benefits with less, less sticker shock. So now this is not a bargain basement area. I want to be clear about that, but from a value perspective, it makes a lot of sense. So for remote workers, hybrid professionals, and families who want walkability and convenience, Malvern is actually very, very appealing. So from an investment standpoint, Malvern is more of a steady appreciation play, not flashy, not speculative, but very solid. Think long-term hold, strong resale, and low downside risk. So we want to move into Delaware County, and I do think this one is quite often overlooked, and it's Havertown. Havertown is one of those places that locals actually love, but outsiders sometimes overlook. And people chase media, Swarthmore, parts of Ardmore. Meanwhile, Havertown quietly does everything right. So they have the strong schools. Haverford Township School District is consistently well rated. Established neighborhoods. They have tree-lined streets, and there is like a general community feel there. There's parks, youth sports are pretty strong, family-oriented culture, and location-wise, it is actually extremely convenient, easy access to the city, close to Ardmore, close to major roadways, but without feeling overly congested. I think that's the best way to put it. So why is Havertown overrated or underrated? Because it does not market itself as trendy. It does not have the flashy borough branding at media, but that does not mean demand is not there. In fact, a lot of first move up buyers end up in Havertown after realizing they get more house and better schools and a stronger sense of community for the money. So pricing is still accessible relative to some neighboring areas. And because inventory is limited, well-priced homes tend to move pretty quickly here. So from an investment standpoint, Havertown is about stability, low vacancy, strong resale, and consistent demand. It is a kind of a place that holds value even when the market shifts. Lastly, I want to bring this all together. What do Conshohocken, Phoenixville, Malvern, and Havertown have in common? They all benefit from the proximity to jobs and transit. They all have improving or established amenities. They all have very solid schools. On the niche reports, all of them will be rather high. They are offering lifestyle benefits that people actually want, and most importantly, they are not fully priced like the flashier alternatives. And they all have its own distinct town and street, if that makes any sense. So that is what makes them underrated. I want to ask you guys, how do you spot areas like this on your own? Here are some filters that I use. I look for areas where commercial development is happening quietly, where there's offices, retail, restaurants. I look for towns within 30 to 45 minutes of center city with transit access. And I pay attention to school district strength. Even if you do not have kids, it matters for resale. And you compare median prices to the county average and areas that are, within 10 to 20% below the county median, but improving. And they tend to have some upside there. And finally, zoom in. Real estate is hyper local. One street can make a big difference. One thing I do want to talk about is risk, because there are always risks. Interest rates can change, inventory can shift, and some areas can also get overbuilt. So if development is not managed well, that's a factor. But overall, 2026 looks like a more rational market, as I mentioned at the start of the video, and rational markets reward thoughtful buyers. So if you're thinking about making a move this year, whether personally or as an investment, do not just chase what is popular. Look for what is quietly improving. If any of these neighborhoods caught your attention, reach out. I'm always happy to walk through comps, talk strategy, or just help you think through options. And I would actually love to hear from you. What do you think is the most underrated neighborhood in the Philly suburbs right now? Thanks again for listening. If you found value in this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who is thinking about buying or investing. I will catch you on the next one. John Lee Real Estate, find you the best rate. All throughout Philly like Schuylkill Expressway. Talking to people who out of